Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on where you are joining us from around the world. This is the Early Stage Finance webinar, an initiative of the Southern Africa Startup Network supported by the World Bank. My name is Maphumulo and I will be a program director for the duration of this webinar. So I know that most of us are already kind of familiar with online meetings, given our current situation across the world. But just to remind you all, if we could so kindly make sure that our mics are muted, and that our videos are switched off. I will allow, however, the speakers to switch on their videos when it is their turn to address the attendees. And then the second thing, I would like to just apologize for all participants in the program today for any background noise that might come across. It may be crying babies, cars passing by, and things really that are beyond our control. We have a really great program, outlined for you guys today. We have a panel of experts that will be joining us today. Panel of, in fact, finance, experts, those that have, worked within the early stage finance and invested in startups across the world and across Africa as well. But before I waste any more time, I would like to, just call the country director of the World Bank, Marie-Nelly, for her official opening remarks.
I think you're muted.
Marie-Francoise, if you can just check if you are muted.
Do you hear me now?
Loud and clear. You may switch on your video.
Okay. Yeah, I think that there is a problem with my microphone. But okay, so again, good morning, afternoon, and evening to everybody. I am delighted to welcome you for this webinar on early stage finance in the context of the Southern African Startup Network. My name is Marie-Francoise Marie-Nelly. I am presently the country director for the World Bank for Southern Africa, including Botswana, Eswatini, Lesotho, Namibia, and of course, South Africa. Prior to that, I was a country director for the Maghreb and Malta. I was based in Rabat. Prior to that, again, I was a country director for Nigeria, based in Abuja. And I was also, before that, the country director for the two Congos, based in Kinshasa. So I think that I have really a broad view of the continent. And I think that a number of you who know me know my passion for the development of youth and from young entrepreneurs in particular. And I have, in that case, a key interest in supporting a growing entrepreneurship ecosystem that we've been doing actually through my various posting. And I think that it's very good that we have the North Africa, the Maghreb team here today. And it is no surprise that we are focusing today on early stage financing, which is absolutely critical for the development of the network. Basically, the idea is to share experiences between North Africa and Southern Africa, and hopefully that we can come with recommendations that can help, the Southern African startup network to shape up even strongly, but also for North Africa to learn from what already exists in Southern Africa. So I'm delighted, to facilitate this connection, precisely given what I just told you. I would like really to recognize our former Minister of Communication of Tunisia, another passionate of young people, Noomane Fehri, who will be moderating the first session. We've had a long journey together on that, and honestly, we think that this is the future of the continent. So this is why I think that it is so important that we work together. So the first panel allows to have really a very nice flow of discussion, starting with clarification on what is the Tunisia Startup Act. I remember in the previous gathering, there was a question, on what it is beyond, of course, the legislative aspect, but what are the tools that are coming to allow indeed the startup and the entrepreneurs to grow. So we'll hear from that. But then after that, we will hear from a representative of two investment funds. So looking at the ecosystem, AfricInvest, which is a leading North African investment firm, which now is focusing on startups. So we will be able to hear from them. But also we would like to hear from Visible Mission Venture, which is led by Durrie Hassan from Malaysia. So we want upfront to bring, the global experience as we shape up, our conversation and hopefully, the startup network itself. Then we will also hear from entrepreneurs proper, of course, into the discussion, but on the panel, we have a success story, to share with us, and it's quite timely because it is really a North African startup that is looking at artificial intelligence and who has recently made a joint lab with BioNTech. BioNTech is really one of the famous laboratories producing the vaccine, to fight the COVID pandemic. So very timely, very useful, but of course we will look at it from the perspective of the startup, of the development of the idea. So I'm actually delighted to be there. I want to end by wishing you, of course, a very nice panel. And I would like to quote, this quote that I'm always citing when we are together, on this panel where we are shaping up the future, which is a quote from Robert Broad, who said, enjoy the little things in life, for one day you may look back and realize that they were the big things. So I truly think that this is exactly what we are doing today. So enjoy. I'd like to pass the mic to the Deputy Director General from the South African Department of Science and Innovation, who is also very engaged with us on the youth. I think that I managed to pass him, the passion of the youth. So we are now forming a club on that, and we can wait to move into action. So Dan, pleased to see you again, and over to you, please.
Thank you very much, Country Director Marie-Francoise. Indeed, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. It's indeed a great pleasure for me to be with you. As Marie-Francoise said, I work for the South African government, for the Department of Science and Innovation. In other words, for that part of the government who passionately cares about the potential of science, technology, innovation, entrepreneurship to make a difference in the quality of living of all South Africans. It's very important for us to be associated with this afternoon's very important discussion, because what we will be talking about really is a central part of what is now the main policy imperative in South Africa, and that is our economic reconstruction and recovery plan launched by our president. Because innovation, entrepreneurship, support for small business development, and most critically, unlocking the potential of the South African youth are really the foundations upon which that plan is built. So learning and sharing and hearing from others are now best to, as a government, play a role for early stage financing to flourish in South Africa, to reflect on how we can foster public-private partnership, how do we best mobilize the resources of our existing entrepreneurship and innovation funding agencies. These are all very important priorities for our government. And of course, I would again like to congratulate the organizing team for the very impressive array of participants it has mobilized, because we also want to be a government who's listening and want to hear from you. What can we do to serve you better? And then secondly, this of course just forms part of a number of engagements we as a department is privileged to enjoy with the World Bank. We have a rich journey together of policy learning, of policy experimentation, and establishing partnerships. And we would specifically again like to congratulate the World Bank and the regional office here on its initiative to support the Southern African Startup Network, because we think that really is filling a very important gap in the ecosystem. We believe that just as the challenges which face us knows no borders, our collective response, whether it's the pandemic, whether it's the economy, goes for regional collaboration and integration. And we think that the network has a very important role to play in that regard. And that's really the message I want just to conclude with. We also believe in one Africa. South Africa is firmly committed to Pan-Africanism, and this opportunity to discuss and hear from our friends on the northern part of our continent is extremely valuable. Donc, nous sommes très reconnaissants, Marie-Françoise, que tu nous aides de rapprocher le nord et le sud. Donc, merci beaucoup. So we very much look forward to a rich afternoon of discussion, and you can certainly count on our department to work with you in advancing these outcomes. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Dan. That was really great. And Marie-Françoise for setting the scene. Thank you very much. We're going to move to the next person on the program today, Douglas Pierce, who also works at the World Bank under the Financial Infrastructure and Access Department. So Douglas will essentially be giving us, or rather laying the foundation, for today's discussion and speaking a bit about the regional early stage finance landscape. Douglas, over to you. If you could just check if you are unmuted, and then you may switch on your camera, Douglas.
I don't see him in the participants list, Pearl. He may have had trouble joining.
All right. Okay. So perhaps maybe let's just move on. Apologies about that. I will check with him. So let's just move on to the next item on the program, which is, of course, the panel discussion that is led or moderated, rather, by Noomane Fehri, who is the former Minister of Digital Economy from in Tunisia. He'll be joined, of course, by our incredible panelists, experts in the finance or the early stage finance space. The first panelist, if you will allow me to introduce them, is Karim Beguir, who is from Instadeep. He's the co-founder and CEO there. Karim is a global entrepreneur with an African focus, helping companies to get a grip with the latest AI breakthroughs and deploy these in order to improve efficiency and ROI. And then the next panelist is Salma Baghdadi, who is from Smart Capital. She's the ecosystem manager there. Salma is a former entrepreneur in Tunisia and France with 2 tech startups. She'll be giving us an overview of the Startup Act and its role in addressing early stage finance challenges. And then the third panelist is Yassine Oussaifi, who is from AfricInvest. He's a partner there. Yassine is partner with AfricInvest Innovation Fund and a seasoned end-to-end early stage finance investor. He has led several transactions in the venture space for early stage tech-enabled companies operating in different sectors and different regions on the African continent. And lastly, but certainly not least, is Durrie Hassan, founder of Visible Mission Ventures. Durrie is a young Malaysian-born investor and founder of a finance arm of his family office. He'll be sharing insights on the shifts in the global landscape, his experiences in early stage finance across Asia, and maybe give us some recommendations as well in practices that Africa could adopt. Noomane, I'll hand over to you.
Thank you very much. Thank you all. Thank you, Pearl. Thank you, Marie-Françoise, for your huge energy and your push to the empowering the youth and the startups. Daan, I'm really, Mr. Deputy Director, I'm really glad that you are here because we are looking for somebody like you to kind of, from the government side, to push the regional the regional South African network. So really, thank you for being here, and please continue the push not only in South Africa but also to the regional and regional ones. And Ganesh and the team, thank you for organizing this. I think everybody introduced the subject. One little thing, organizational thing, that at 5 o'clock you will be moved to the countries team. Today we have present 3. The whole group is here. At 5 o'clock we will in less than 1 hour. Sorry, depends on what time you are. In 40 minutes. You will be directed to rooms, one focused on South Africa, one is focused in Lesotho, because Lesotho, the Lesotho startup network is very strong there and very well organized. and one for Eswatini, Botswana, and Namibia, which we hope that the network will reach the level of organization to contribute more to the economy. So another thing, I see that Isabelle I see Isabelle is here. Isabelle Beguir from BPI France is here. She's the international director. Salut Isabelle. She's the international director for BPI France. I will put you on the spot, Isabelle, and I will ask you to give few words, because what you are doing in France and in North Africa is phenomenal, and I would love to see it happening in South Africa, and I'm sure everybody would love to see that. So without further ado,
thank you, Noomane.
Startups needs 10K to start and to do proof of concept, then they need 100K investment, then 1 million, then 10 million, so Series A, Series B. We realized that the most difficult part is that first, but the early finance, and this is what our focus is. So in the panel, we will start with Salma, who will to tell us about the Startup Act, the myth from the reality as well, not only Salma, the good things, but also the things which we should learn from, and how we could how is it working, and how we can make it work, and what lesson learned we could have, we could share with our friends from South Africa. Please, Salma, over to you.
Thank you so much, Noomane. Thank you so much for having me. I'm honored to be here, actually, and sharing the Tunisian experience with this, maybe with its ups and downs, but more ups than downs, and we're happy for that. So yes, I'm managing the ecosystem building in Smart Capital, and also taking care of the labeled startups through the Startup Act lens. So Smart Capital actually is the company managing and operating the national initiative Startup Tunisia. So Startup Tunisia aims to put Tunisia on the map of the friendly ecosystems for startups in our region, so Africa and MENA, and also the Mediterranean shores. What we aim to do is to have 1,000 startups by 2024, and maybe some of them will be unicorns or successful stories to inspire others. And I'm very happy to have Karim here. And without putting pressure on you, Karim, all our hopes are, are on your shoulders. With other startups, they are doing pretty well in Tunisia, and we're very proud of them. So Smart Capital is first of all operating the Startup Act. So the Startup Act has been was voted in 2018, but has been activated since April 2019. So almost 2 years of activity for the Startup Act, and we're very happy to count now 425 startups so far, and this number is growing steadily each month, and we're very happy to see that the pipe is not drying up despite the very, very difficult and special context and that we're going through, so the pandemic. So we're counting each month more than 40 startups that are applying for the Startup Act to get the label and to benefit from the different incentives that are provided by the law. So so this is for the Startup Act, but the Startup Tunisia initiative, yes?
What does it do? Salma, excuse me. What does it do really to the startup? What benefit do they get once they became labeled as officially a startup?
Yeah, so actually the law has 20 incentives, and the 20 incentives are addressed to 3 different targets. The first target is the founder. So the startup founder can have, for example, a loans for the 12th month, for the 12 starting month in its venture. So it's kind of salary to do its business, and it's really amazing that because it's one of the very rare kind of incentives that we can find in legal frameworks in the world. And then we have a leave from the previous job, so you can leave your job to do this big leap in your startups for 12 months, renewable, and then you can be back to your job if things didn't go well as expected. And we have also the patenting part, because the Startup Act, actually we have a measure that we bear the costs for the local and international patenting, which is very costly for in general, but specifically for Tunisian startups. And this is for the funders. For the investors, the incentives are most tax incentives. So like basically the investor will not pay taxes on the investment done, and also then in case of a positive and successful exit. And also it offers some flexibilities on the way, the nature of investment, and also the way to do the investment thing with the startups. And all the investors are covered in that. So business angels also can benefit from this. The third set of incentives are targeted to the startup itself, so the commercial entity. And so we have tax incentives. We have social incentives, because the startups has not to pay all the social taxes for the human resources, for example, for the 8 years, so benefiting from the label. And then we have the not financial, but bank-related incentives, such as the special account for foreign currency, to have in a more agile and flexible way to receive foreign investment, to receive also international revenues without all the hassle that maybe we know in Tunisia. And we can talk about this in another panel maybe. So and also we have kind of technological card. The law has been made in a way to create like an open door for the startups in a very complicated legal framework in general. So you're muted, Noomane, you're on mute.
Thank you. We'll come back to the lesson learned later. I would like to make a tour. So basically, today, if a startup is labeled, the government allow them to continue to receive their salary from whoever is employing them through a fund, in order to encourage them to do that, to do their venture, and in addition, open the door for them, preserve them from all the administrative work that needs to be done, in a summary. And you have 425 startups today labeled, and hopefully you are reaching 1,000 soon. Thank you. So enough of Tunisia for now, but we'll come for the lesson learned, Salma. What like to do, we have with us now North African becoming Pan-African investment firm, AfricInvest. We have Yassine. Yassine, can you tell us two things? What you do first, and your focus on South Africa, knowing that you came from North Africa, which is good to continue to create that link. And more importantly, if you have some investment in South Africa, in South Africa, but more importantly, what do you want to happen in order to feed your pipeline of startups to invest in? Yassine, over to you.
Thank you, Noomane, and I hope everyone is hearing me well.
Yes.
Yes, good. Okay. Thanks a lot for having me first, and thanks also for organizing this. I mean, it's great to have this discussion all together between Northern Africa and Southern Africa, and we hope that we could have more of such discussions. Maybe by way of introduction, and as you said, Noomane, at AfricInvest, we're a Pan-African investment platform. We've been investing on the continent for the last 27 years, and we invest in private equity assets. We have a private credit arm, but we also have an innovation practice, and that's what personally keeps me busy and what I focus on and enjoy. We do that from offices, across the continent, 4 in North Africa and 4 in Sub-Saharan Africa. So on the innovation side, what we do, our first innovation fund was back to the year 2000, but that was a different time, and now with this new wave of technology that came and what happened in the last decade, we created a new family of funds that are innovation fund, that Pan-African innovation fund, that invest in this new category of entrepreneurs that are building their startups and scaling beyond borders, and that need this scalability and this diversification to remain competitive, to become sustainable, and to capture the strength of each region, both in terms of talent and in terms of markets. And that's the only way to succeed. So we have our innovation fund that invests in African startups and help them grow and develop to become regional and global champion. We do that in partnership with the global venture firm called Cathay Innovation that is operating in Europe, in the US and in Asia. And this is also an important way to link and to connect and to build bridges for our African entrepreneurs with the global innovation ecosystem and help our entrepreneurs scale and develop. So we invest across sectors and across geographies in Africa. And the African ecosystem is structured around 4 hubs. From north to south, these are Cairo, Nairobi, Lagos, and Cape Town. So Cape Town and South Africa is one of our focus, and there is a lot happening, and we see a lot of things in Cape Town, and you guys have really great talent. And great universities. I think the top 5 university or top 4 university in Africa are in Southern Africa. So that's really a great asset. I'm saying Cape Town, but also Johannesburg. Johannesburg is a hub for fintech, and we'd love really to see more pipeline coming from Namibia, from Botswana, and from the other region, and would be happy to jump in and to look at this company.
Yassine, sorry to interrupt you.
Yes.
Did you physically invested in South African startups? How many, etc.? Are you walking the talk?
Yes, we are, and I'm happy to tell you that. It's a couple of weeks ago. Late last year, early this year, that we invested in a great company in South Africa called iRobotics. This company has been initiated by 2 South African entrepreneurs, and they are playing in the agricultural space. They started out of Cape Town. They're using satellite imagery and drone imagery with some AI algorithm and giving very important insights to farmers today across 18 countries in the Northern Hemisphere and Southern Hemisphere. So they help farmers with 2 things, and there are 2 problems they're trying to solve. One problem is the pest and disease and the health for tree crops, and the second problem is the yield. And these are 2 very important problems for any farmers. And so we're really happy to have invested in this company, in co-investing with Naspers from South Africa and with the FMO, the Dutch Development Agency.
Excellent. So, a question for you. We know the company and it's the investment, I think it's Series A or more. So how low can you go on the investment? Because we are talking about early stage finance. Do you go as low as 100K? Do you, the lowest is 1 million, 10 million? Tell us more to understand where do you stop and how do we need to fill the gap?
Yeah, usually we invest tickets in the first round from 1 to 5. So that's our scope of investment for the first round, and then of course we are able to follow on and to bring more financing to the companies for them to grow and to develop and go beyond. I mean, we invest in late A's and B's. That's our sweet spot. And of course, I mean, the gap here is the lower amounts. I mean, it's the 100K, the 500Ks that the entrepreneurs need to be able to reach the Series A. But from our side, as a Pan-African player, we are focusing on a range that is between 1 and 5 as a first ticket.
Thank you very much, Yassine. I'll come back to you on this. So I realize, last question, and if you can answer very quickly, do you have plenty of pipelines coming your way from South African region? Do you think that you need to support lower investment? Is it you? Is it somebody else? Tell us more about that gap. What would you, or what are you ready to do?
So 2 questions. The first one on the pipeline. Yes, we do have a lot of companies coming from South Africa. I think out of our pipeline, we have around 20% that are coming from the South African region. Yes, we do have pipeline that is early stage and a bit later stage. So this exists. And for the earlier tickets, I think it's really regional players that can play this role and invest smaller tickets, 100K to 500Ks, to help the entrepreneurs scale in the first steps of their journey. Okay,
really, thank you, Yassine. I'll come back to you in a bit. Now, I think we'll have on the continent from Malaysia, or I think you are in the Philippines right now, Durrie. And you seem to be one of the impact investors that would be looking to for earlier stage company. Tell us more, please.
Sure. Yeah. So you described it perfectly. I run the impact investing arm of my family office, and a lot of these investments are very early stage. So they're just sort of revenue generating companies, but not a profit yet. Ticket sizes, as you mentioned, they can be as low as 50,000 US, and we go up to $1 million, but generally it's sub 1 million, because, you know, we're finding that for a lot of the startups or social enterprises that have a theory of change and focus on impact, their business models cannot scale as aggressively as, say, you know, any tech startup that's aiming to be unicorn or looking for VC funding. So you have that limitation with the business model, because there's often there might be a compromise between how can we positively impact the beneficiaries versus how do we make a profit and return that to the investors or to the shareholders. So I spent a lot of time looking at those kind of companies, mainly in Southeast Asia and Asia Pacific. But, you know, I think we'll find that there are quite a lot of similarities, at least objectively, comparing region to region.
Thank you. And do you invest in technology or technology with impact? Tell us more on sectors you would be looking for, please.
Sure. So the majority of them are in the education tech sector, which is, you know, relatively understandable across countries and regions. In the Philippines, where I'm based right now, I'm one of the earliest investors in an agricultural company. So they work on farmer education, because you know, a lot of the food here is imported. The farmers here don't have the technology or knowledge to really plant effectively. A lot of them, the average age is 57. So there's a lack of education, very small stakeholder farmers. There's a lot of gender inequality. A lot of the landowners are men. And so that is a very low or non-tech investment that I'm really involved in. So between those two, that's really where the investments are focused.
Thank you. And do you see links with your firm to be looking to have a focus on South Africa if the South African network would support you to bring you pipeline deals and stuff like that?
Yes, definitely, because I think a lot of the themes that we look at investing are, you'll find them in almost in every country, and it's just a matter of understanding what the surrounding environment or the infrastructure is like that would facilitate investment. What does government support look like? What does the investor networks, whether it be their angel networks or bigger co-investing opportunities, all of those sort of have to, I think, got to run them through a checklist, and then that would definitely be a great source of pipeline. Yeah.
Thank you very much. Now we'll be moving to the product of all why we are doing this is really to create startups. And we have one of the rising stars of African startups with Karim Beguir here. Hi, Karim. So what we would be looking for today is obviously to tell us your story and confuse our audience. But equally importantly, I'd like you to tell us about your investment journey, and if you have an advice to do what needs to happen in the early stage finance, what would that be? But tell us first about your fantastic journey.
Hi, Noomane. Thank you for your invitation. I'm very happy to be here. Yes, I mean, on our side, our story started in 2014 in Tunis, in Tunisia. Literally, I co-founded the company Instadeep with 2 laptops and $2,000. And since then, we've been able to really, grow the company. And at the beginning, like the general idea we had, and I'm passionate about artificial intelligence, was, from Africa.
Hello, Karim. Karim, we lost you. Am I the only one? Okay.
No, you are not.
Okay, while waiting for Karim, then I hope that Karim, we lost you. So while Karim is coming back,
he's coming back. No man, I just admitted him.
Okay, thank you.
He should be back now.
Your mic, Karim.
Yes, can you hear me now? Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, the line went blank, but yes, I'm back. So we were discussing basically the early days, and at the early days, our idea was to compete and collaborate with the world's best in AI, and we were inspired by what we were seeing with notably incredible progress done by DeepMind and others. And at the time, the notion that an African startup could actually be competitive and reach that kind of quality level in deep tech innovation and AI was, too many science fiction. Like many people said, you guys are crazy, etc. But what we've realized is that, we have tremendous, talents all across the continent. And that actually, if you believe that it is possible, it's probably half the way. You probably have achieved half the way in terms of getting to where you want to be ultimately. And we managed to effectively grow the company by taking tough challenges and showing that actually these can be overcome. And this is how the company sort of like starting as a bootstrap progressively became competitive and sort of by word of mouth became like attractive to many partners. And sort of like the dream came true because we ultimately now do joint research with actually Google DeepMind itself, and also work with BioNTech, as you mentioned. We just announced recently a strategic collaboration and a joint innovation lab to focus on AI and personalized medicine, and notably in immunotherapy and cancer. But so what are the sort of like takeaways of this journey? I think the first one, as I mentioned, is we need to be very daring. We need to believe that African talent, African startups actually will compete and can win against anybody in the world. This is a very important point to start with. And what is interesting is that at the time the ecosystem was not as developed as today, but it was just the beginning, and already like those were starting to position themselves, and we were fortunate to actually from which led, I believe, to what was their first startup investment, through Instadeep. And so the ecosystem started taking shape. Also the Startup Act in Tunisia, I do credit actually the Tunisian government for that, because this actually really had an impact and allowed us to accelerate. And ultimately, you know, what we're trying to do at Instadeep is to prove that, as we said, African talent can compete at the highest levels in deep tech innovation, particularly in this age where artificial intelligence is disrupting, you know, the way economic processes, the way companies are set up. This creates a unique chance for Africa. Like in terms of timing, if you look from a technological point of view, this is an interesting moment. So like disruptive stories can happen and can happen on the continent, and it is all in a way about talent, with you know, internet connections being available everywhere. All the world's knowledge is there. Let me give you just one example. You know, one of the reasons why you know, we see today SpaceX and Tesla being such fantastic companies is because if you ask yeah, American graduate like young graduates in engineering, what are the top companies you would like to work for? They actually will tell you it's SpaceX and Tesla. It's even better than Google in terms of like attractiveness. So the point I'm making here is that it is all about the talent, and Africa is talent rich. And this is, you know, there is a potential for African giants who are very sort of human capital rich to be competitive. I'm actually very proud of the fact, you know, we're talking about North Africa and South Africa today. I'm very proud of the fact that in the same team at Instadeep, we have talents from South Africa. We have an office in Cape Town, working with our team in Tunisia, and the other colleagues working, you know, at the frontier of AI and biology, working on pushing the envelope in terms of research innovation. So this is already a reality, but it could be much bigger in the future. Yeah. And
really think I have a question, question you should answer, you have to answer me. How did you get your first 100K? How did you get your first 500K? Because is it customer revenue, is it investment? Tell us more. And if you have an advice to do to the people around the room, and they are pretty powerful people around the room here, what should we do to encourage more Instadeepers?
So yes, to answer your question, so the first 100K, actually we really started in the beginning as bootstrap. So we were just making the money from customers. I think the first year we made $7,000. We are very proud of that, and we grew exponentially from there. But it was Tunisians in particular who invested in Instadeep. I believe today the picture is a bit different, because you have accelerators as well, so it is easier now. But if you want, like, what would be the real game changer, I believe, to the ecosystem and to like a early stage and seed funding round, it is to have big success stories. Because ultimately, if you look at early stage, this is the highest risk, highest reward part of, you know, the sort of like the whole capital framework. And it will only work if we have success stories that are so big that we create a sort of fear of missing out. And I see this as one of the key sort of like missions of Instadeep, proving that number one, we can compete and win, but number two, creating hopefully a success story which actually inspires others to say, hey, I can actually do this too. I have a dream, I have a project, I am passionate and competent about something. I believe that if we manage to have a few very large success stories all across the, you know, the continent, this is the best way actually to have international investors actually willing to make 100K checks like it's nothing, because the fear of missing out is gonna be too big. So in a sense, you have to be daring. You have to build the success, and success will bring success.
Really, thank you, Karim. Really infusing. So you give me the perfect opportunity to call on Isabelle Bebear. Isabelle, are you still around? I hope you can. You are doing, yes. You are a different type of stakeholders. We have seen the governments, we have seen the investors and the impact investor and the startups, but BPI is a totally different bullet game, and they are doing fantastic things in France and North Africa, and I'm sure you are planning to do stuff in South Africa. Can you tell us a bit more, if you are here?
Okay. Yes, I'm here. Can you see me and hear me? Yes. Okay. Yes. When in France, of course, we have the BPI France is a national agency, innovation agency. What we've done in France, and I suppose that help a lot to create the innovation ecosystem is to put in place several tools. In fact, a continuum of financial tools to help company to grow from the very beginning, seed capital, to listing a company, because and that's what impressed me in Tunisia. It's from the beginning. Smart Capital has been thought to create several tools at the same time to accompany companies when they grow from the very beginning, and then growing year by year. And I think it's very important to create this kind of tool. I just would like to come back to what Karim has said. I think it's very important, of course, to have success and to be able to show them. But I think also for seed capital, you need also public money, because it's very difficult to attract international investors to invest 100,000 euros or dinar, etc., because they're not on the ground. Perhaps successful entrepreneurs from Karim can do that, but I'm not sure that institutional one can do. So I think it's very important that African governments be conscious of the possibility and the opportunity to finance seed capital. And it's really a good way then after to create also private actors. You can invest in seed funds like Smart Capital will do, and create an industry that will be after self-sufficient. But at the very beginning, if we want to launch things, you need public money. And I think that's what we have done in France, and that's why there is a venture capital industry in France. It's because at the beginning, during the beginning of the 2000, a lot of public money has been injected in private capital, in PE funds.
Okay, and I think what you are doing is much more than France, Isabelle. For example, if you tell us more about your equity, I saw some startups using your equity platforms, connecting. You are doing more to the ecosystem rather than finance.
Yes, of course.
And what
really
to South Africa, and if we can take this as an opportunity to engage you into something of South Africa. I know that Marie-Francoise is keen to push me to push you to make sure that we do things in South Africa.
Yes, we have our digital platform, Euroequities. The objective of Euroequities is to permit innovative companies to be to create links with other actors of the ecosystem, investors, but also by clients, incubators, etc. And what is very interesting in the Euroequity, it's that more than half of the enterprise that are on the platform are European. So you have a lot of VC funds, European VC funds, startups, etc. And now we develop Euroequity in Africa, and we have created a Tunisian community on Euroequity. And the advantage of this platform is like you can have you can create links between Africa and Europe, and for financing, I think it's very interesting. In South Africa, we already work with Africa Arena, so we have a lot of startups that are supported by Africa Arena on Euroequity. So at the moment, we already have South African startups on the platform.
So if the Lesotho Startup Network or the Botswana Startup Network startup network wants to get to use or to get connection with the Your Equity, etc., what should they do? Should they is there a process, or is there something that we need to do to make sure that we include these other countries into the platform? Is there a process, or should we start an initiative to make that happen?
If they want to be on the platform, it's very simple. They go on yourequity.com and well, you just have to do the process. It's not very complicated. But what could be very interesting is to create specific communities, and with those specific communities, you can push informations. You can organize web conferences. We can create links between companies, etc. And then to do that, the best way is to contact us, in fact. Me, for example.
Okay, thank you very much. So this is a message to the Lesotho Startup Network and the Botswana Startup Network, which are kind of looking for things to create their community. Maybe this is a fantastic tool to use. Now I'll come back to Salma. Salma, tell us the lesson learned, please. What are, if you have to redo it again for Startup Act, would you do it the same way? And please do share with us any documentation through the chat box for people to continue to read.
Yeah, it's already done actually. So I shared with you the report for the first annual activity for the Startup Act. So you'll have an overview of the ecosystem in Tunisia with the startup sectors, investment raised along the first year, so from April 2019 to April 2020. And we're working on the second report that will be released in May 2021 as well. So I make sure to share it with you guys. So before getting to the lesson learned, Noomane, because I didn't have the opportunity actually to introduce the Startup Tunisia initiative with its 3 pillars, because the Startup Tunisia initiative is not only the legal framework, but also it's the investment framework and the ecosystem building support. So it is designed on 3 pillars. And so we had kind of a chronological phase shifting. So the Startup Act has been launched and is doing well with 425, but still the Fund of Fund, which is the main piece for the investment enhancement to enhance the investment framework and landscape in Tunisia, will be done soon. And also the startup ecosystem support with a main program based on funding for very specific life stages. And one of them is the very early stage for startups to help them develop their POCs, their prototypes, with the $10K that you mentioned before as a milestone to achieve or to raise for startups. And we try through we're putting this, or the program will be launched very soon in next month, hopefully. And the program is a financing through grants and reimbursable grants to help the startups develop their prototypes and proof of concepts, and in a way to substitute the business angels and the love money that in other countries they might be the first funding streams for this very early stage, the very early stage for startups. So the lesson learned. What I'd like to share actually with you.
1 minute.
Yeah, sure.
Lesson learned in 1 minute, please.
In 1 minute, yes. First of all, governance is very important to manage the Startup Act as a law, but should it be managed in a very classical way in public administration, or to think about like a kind of governance out of the box, and what is it? So I think I invite all of the other countries that are working on that to really think on an adapted way for their countries, because there is no ideal configuration, but it's really an important question to work on it. The second lesson learned is the importance of the digital process in any new startup pact that will be voted in your countries. So it's very important to adopt the digital platform. It's not only a mean, but it's really important as a strategic decision to embrace at first, and to make all the other administration and the shareholders to take it. And the third one, of course, to manage this chronological shift between different pillars and different activities. For Tunisia, it was the legal framework that was launched in an agile way. And the second one, so the investment with the fund of fund and the ecosystem support that have taken more time to be launched.
Okay, thank you very much. Three-pillar ecosystem support, legal framework, and financial structure. Is the fund of fund fast to happen, or it takes time?
No, it takes a lot of time, and it's important to take it as a parameter and to work on working on squeezing that time. But I think it will take time in any way. So it's important to have it as an information that you need to plan for it and to anticipate this time to take to put it in place, and then to plan something else, maybe to make it less difficult.
Or the ecosystem support, as Isabelle mentioned, that you need public money for ecosystem support. Thank you. I'm sorry, Durrie, Yassine, and Karim. 30 seconds if you have anything to add before I pass the floor to Pearl to go to the breakout rooms. Durrie?
Yeah, sure. So very quickly, the only advice I have is if you're a startup that you're bootstrapping or you're getting family or friends to invest in you, have a person who knows enough finance, or you yourself learn enough finance to prepare your financial documents that a VC could look at and be like, okay, I get it. So always have that discipline.
Thank you. Business angels, what we are, to increase the business angel community in our countries. Yassine?
No, to thank you all. I just shared on the link on the platform the link of the community that Isabelle mentioned, and that is, I witness, very helpful for us to connect with other VCs across the continent. So that's great to connect also with more VCs from Southern Africa. So please connect and yeah, I'm happy to work together on any future opportunity.
Thank you.
Thanks very much.
Isabelle.
Yeah.
Karim?
Yes, so 3 lessons learned, especially for early stage entrepreneurs. If you have a choice between doing a physical business or a digital, go digital. If you have a choice between building around people or around an idea, choose the people. Ideas change and will evolve anyway, especially early stage. Focus really on the people you're building with. And the third one is, if you are in digital, if you have the right people, and there's some kind of expert that comes and tells you that something cannot be done while in first principles you think it should, you're probably right, and go for it 300%.
Thank you, Karim. Isabelle, do you have any last word?
Yes, thank you. Well, just one thing. Just if you want to create an ecosystem, just think about continuum from the beginning. Very, very, very important.
Sustainability, you mean?
Sorry?
You mean sustainability, how you can fund the ecosystem? Is that what you mean?
Well, what I mean is that from the beginning, you have to think of financement and business support for companies during all the that after when it's very important to think that as a whole, as an ecosystem.
Thank you. Thank you, Isabelle, and thank you for jumping in on the spot. Pearl, over to you to the breakout rooms. So next session, we will do one the other way around, where we will have the focus on North Africans, but we will have the success stories from South Africa, telling stories to the North African business. That's the next steps. But over to you, Marie and Pearl.
Yes, Pearl, sorry, allow me to come in here. I think that it would be good if Noomane could summarize the key points. We have a very important representative of the Ministry of Finance who have joined us, and I think that these key messages of using public funds, you know, the three. So I would ask Noomane to summarize that, because after going in breakout sessions, some of them may not be able to stay. Yes, please.
Thank you. So the basic thing, there were three. The gap is really between 100 and $1 million. That's where the real gap is. Yes, there are business angels. You need to focus on business angels of the 0 to 50 to build these networks. Then there are three pillars to this to succeed. In the ecosystem programs, and these are public money for ecosystem programs to fund the ecosystem to start the energy to deliver things, while you have the fund of funds to create various funds, Series A, B, etc., and the legal framework and the advice from the or the lesson learned from the legal framework of Tunisia is, yes, create a whole, you know, an open door for startup, protect them from the rest, but make sure that the new law that you create don't contradict other laws. So you need to manage that quickly. But if you have to start now, there is no way that people will invest in startups when it is less than 1 million. The international firms. So Isabelle is saying public money is important to create investment vehicle for the 0 to 1 million. And the importance of the ecosystems that drive that they talk to the government, they talk to the startups, they talk to the investors. In order to, you need to fuel them, you need to give them you know, to fund them, for them to, in order to create all this pipeline that will become Karim and other, as we will see later on in the session. I hope I summarized quite reasonably, but I will write down and we'll send that later.
Thank you so much for that, Noomane, for especially the robust panel discussion that you just led, and to our panel members that have graciously accepted the invitation to join us here today: Salma, Baghdadi, Durrie, Hassan, Karim, Beguir, and Yassine Oussaifi.